we left Australia after the Japanese invaded Australia, and then we went to New Guinea. A little island of Biak was a half degree off the equator. And to this day, I will not eat anything that has lamb attached to it, because all they fed us over there was mutton. And it was a sad, sad day, but we've survived it, lived through it, and we're so blessed that we could do what we did over in that area.
I want to say, in my case, the adjustment was rather difficult, particularly on the transport overseas. I was 17 days on a troop ship in a convoy, which is moving about 8 knots or 9 knots. There were 1,000 men in a hold. There were three holes on a banana boat out of Tampa, Florida. It wasn't equipped to handle people at all, but there were 3,000 of us in there. And I'm a terrible sailor. And as soon as that ship started to move, I was sick. And I was sick for 17 days. A buddy of mine kept me alive by bringing me water, and he'd go to the PX, that's like the ship store, and he'd buy me Fig Newtons, Nabisco Fig Newtons. And I chewed on those and sipped water, and I was really glad to see land, because I was deathly sick the entire time. So I had a terrible time adjusting.
First, in training, you had to learn to sleep in a hammock. In the first few nights, you heard a lot of bodies thudding down, hitting the floor, because you had to maintain your balance during your sleep. After you get on board ship, you're constantly called to battle stations. You're constantly bouncing up and down and rolling sideways. You have the hum of the engines constantly, 24 hours a day. So it takes some real adjusting to learn to get used to it. But when you're young, you can do it, and we did.
I might mention, when you're a combat infantryman, they send you in like in the Philippines. The only time I had a roof over my head from the time I left the States was when I was on ship. Otherwise, we lived on camping out, but we dug our own holes and had a little poncho maybe to cover us up. But the rain and the water got in the holes and so forth. So living conditions for the combat infantryman was right close to the ground, I'll tell you that.
One of the most uncomfortable, speaking of living conditions and sleeping conditions, as I say, when I was with the French First Army, I was served with a group that was led by an officer who had just come over from the United States, and he was a real greenhorn. He didn't know much at all. And we were in a small detachment with a truck, a Jeep, and another vehicle, or maybe 2 Jeeps, and he got lost in the Vosges Mountains in a snowstorm, and we couldn't move. And so we had to camp out, and that was the first time in my life I ever slept in a snowbank with a piece of canvas over me.